is make sure you have a pen and paper available. Um, April's got a really neat training planned for tonight. It's on the shorter side, but it is something that we all deal with just about every time we talk to somebody about our business or our products. It's just like one of those questions that always comes up, and it's a question that for whatever reason just seems to stump people. It makes them go and stutter and everything else. And so make sure you have a pen and paper down. But anyway, we had as everyone knows, this was an extremely difficult week. Most of you know April and I were in New York when 9/11 happened. So every time that memorial and memory comes up, even though it's 24 years ago, it's tough. You're just reminded of it all over again. It's almost like you got to live it all over again. And then on top of that, I mean, Christians all over the world are just heartbroken over the loss of Charlie Kirk. And, it was a tough week. It was a tough week. And this coming week's probably going to be tough too. And I know churches everywhere were, remembering what a great, just what a great Christian Charlie was. So, anyway, I'm looking forward to tonight and turning attention to being positive and, about the business. And the one thing that's got me excited is that pretty much wherever you are in the country now, summer's over, kids are back in school, colleges are going, public schools going, whatever it is, it's kind of people are back to their routine. Summer is kind of officially over. And that means it's just time to get busy. It's time to really turn our focus to the business. And one of the good things about that is there's a lot of people out there, that had a good summer. They got to vacation a little, they got to travel. I know, we've traveled a bunch and we were just in Alaska a few weeks ago, and it's great in this business. You do get to travel a lot. You get to travel for business, you get to travel for fun. I know we're all looking forward to going to Dallas next month, and that's going to be a real special event because of the acquisition of Love Biome and a lot of other things the company's going to be announcing. But traveling is fun, and but most people, it kind of took place in the summer, and they're kind of back to work or their business or their job, and maybe the next time they're going to get a break may be a 3 or 4 day weekend with Thanksgiving, or they may have to wait to, Hanukkah, Christmas, or New Year's to get another break in the action. And it's one of the most appealing things about our business is, being able to free up your time so you could do more of the things that you love and less of the things that you don't love. And that's really what this business is about. I mean, I think the greatest experience I can tell you, and I was sharing this with some of our leads and prospects this week, is waking up in the morning and knowing you get to do whatever you want. And I was and I have an elderly dad. Most of you know he's going to be 89 years old next month, and I'm the oldest, and I'm responsible for pretty much everything. And thank God he's in pretty good health at his age. He still lives alone in his own house. And one of the things I get to do is get up in the morning and bring him breakfast and dinner for that day. And it's really a treat to have the opportunity. It's an honor, actually, to have the opportunity to do that and to be able to do that. And it takes 3.5 hours between going there, getting him his breakfast, making sure his meds are all set, spending time with him, and then coming home. And then I kind of start my day at around 11 o'clock. Okay, that's kind of when my business day starts because I'm taking care of personal stuff in the morning. And I want to share this with you folks. I will never take that for granted. I will never take that for granted. That is a privilege that this business, that has allowed, being in this and having the time freedom to make your own schedule. It's really, really important. And let me ask you something. Could you find something that you wanted to do for 3 or 4 hours in the morning rather than go to work or the office or whatever you have to do? Would you pick something else to do other than that? And not 19 out of 20 people would. They would much rather be able to do something they choose instead of do something they have to. And the reason I'm bringing that up is we tend to take for granted how this business can open up time. We tend to, and I don't know if you realize this, if you've never worked from home, if you've never like running your own business and worked from home, if you've never done that, people that work from home work more hours than the people that go to a place of work. Most people that go to a place of work, they put their 8 or 9 hours in, but then they turn it off the minute they leave. And one of the cool things about working from home in a business like this is you get to set your schedule and you have the opportunity to start very early in the morning if you choose. You have the opportunity to take a few hours here and there to take care of personal stuff. You have the opportunity to do the things you need to do over the course of the day, beginning early in the morning, the afternoon, the evening. Wouldn't it be nice to really control the 16 or 18 hours that we're awake? And even the flexibility of being able to just move it around. Just do this instead of this, do this before this, move this to later. I mean, I'm telling you, when you get used to controlling your time, folks, it is something you never want to give up on. And that's something that you need to keep in mind with this business when you're talking to people about the benefits that your business provides. So, April's going to talk to you a lot about, what do you say when someone asks, what do you do? It's like the $64,000 question. You know what I mean? And everybody's got something different, but it really should just come down to a couple things. Okay. And I'll leave that for April to share. But what I'd like to do is just go through a couple things. Now, tonight, after April's training, we're going to leave a little time for you to ask questions. So that's why I've asked you to make sure you have a pen and paper. Okay. And and make sure they're like intelligent questions. I'm not discouraging you from asking them, but we're not asking for comments on, we're asking for questions about so we can help everybody that is tuning in tonight, answer the question for them too. Okay, when over the material that April brings up. But I have a couple things I want to share with you on slides first. And then, okay, so April, I know there's still people trying to get in.
Yeah, I got them
You got them?
in.
Okay.
Yeah,
So just a
yeah.
couple things, folks. Tomorrow is the 15th. So it's another, subscription day, auto ship day, where the monthly, one of the 5 days where subscriptions go out. 1 week from tomorrow, though, is our Opportunity Zoom. It's Monday, the 22nd. And that is an event that you want to have a lot of people invited to so that you can do business. Okay, you can earn money, you can build your business, you can add customers, you can add consultants. And the key is getting guests on. And if you want guests to be on it, okay, you need to be talking to them about it this week. Okay, it's not something you just send an invite out and you expect them to just pop in. I wish it worked that way, but it doesn't. Okay, it's a business where this business is all about the conversations that you have with people leading up to an event or something you'd like them to do, or maybe closing out the month. So, these are the invites. They've been posted everywhere. I know April's posted them everywhere, but if for some reason you lost it or don't have it, the two invites, one has the Zoom number on it, one does not. If you're not sending it out individually to a person, don't post it with the phone number on it, okay? The Zoom number. Just use that for the person that says, "Wow, that sounds great. I'd like to attend," and you send that one to that person. The middle part in the blue, that's got the live link. And I always encourage you that anyone that says they're joining or would like to join the Zoom, you always give them the live link. Okay, text that to them. So, but anyway, that's a week from tomorrow. And this is what I'm most excited about. Okay, I am most excited about Kenneth is qualified to go to Bahia Mita. And April and I have had the good fortune of traveling to many places with Kenneth and Annette, his wife, and this is just the next place. And he hit it a couple days ago. I don't know if it's posted yet in the U.S. Consultants page because I don't know if they approve post on the weekends, but it'll be there tomorrow. But it's one thing I can tell you since we've joined LifeVantage, Kenneth has never missed a trip. He builds his business, but kind of has the same mentality in April and I do, and that mentality is if they're paying for it, then we're going. It's a perk. It's always a perk. Okay, it's on top of the good money they pay us to build our business anyway. Okay, I mean we're getting paid to do it anyway. And one thing that April and I are really excited about in the it 33 years now next month that we're in the industry. Okay, 25 with our first company, and in the middle of next month it'll be 8 years with LifeVantage. This is the first time that we qualified for and take qualified and taken 3 trips in one year. We had the safari in Africa back in that was either February or March. Then a few weeks ago it was Alaska, and then right after Thanksgiving it's Bahia Mita. So we're excited about it. And what's neat about it? If you're working towards earning a trip, you are clearly building your business. They are happening simultaneously. Okay, they're just going on at the same time. So I'm sure at the end of the call, we can get Kenneth to share some words with us. But congratulations, Kenneth, and it'd be great to be on another trip with you. So we also Deanne D is getting very close. She's in the high 70s with points. Archie Smalls is on here, and he's in the high 60s, as is Catalina, Dr. Greger also. So we're still hoping to have 3 or 4 more, make the trip, and that would be really cool, if that happens. So anyway, let me stop the share and okay. So can we give Kenneth a hand while you can see all the faces? Can we just do a clap, say congratulations, okay? Congratulations, Kenneth. Stay on at the end so you can come back on, okay? But April, I will let people in if they're late logging in, and it's all yours.
All right, thanks. Hi, everyone. Hope you're had a great weekend. I do have, it seemed to be a common thread this week that a lot of times people are, when asked about our business or, how to get the conversation started, one of the things that you can do best in this business is become a good questioner. Ask people lots of questions. And so, not only are you going to ask questions, but anytime you reply to those questions, it needs to be with another question, just so you can get a handle on where this person is from. Part of the thing, and you've heard this on social media, but maybe it doesn't roll over into the person to person part of the business. It is so important that we create some curiosity so that we can figure out what's going on in this person's mind. So, one of the things that goes on first off, and I've got some slides, I'll bring them up in a minute. First off, they have no idea what we do. So we've got to create enough curiosity so that we can have a conversation with them so that we can find out what they want, what they need, what their thoughts are. There's so many, this is the most misunderstood industry out there for sure. I mean, between the changes in the industry that have gone on and just some just fallacies that people have no idea what they're talking about, or what they believe that they heard from somebody that's not even in the industry. So I'm going to bring up some slides. Okay. So what I want to talk about is really how to get that conversation started. Whether somebody asks you, oh, and I think I've got this backwards. Yeah. All right. Sorry. Whether they ask you what your business is, or you're trying to engage them in conversation, the thing that we know, and this is kind of the start of our training. We have to train ourselves to be open and actively looking for these conversations. This is our business. I can remember when Bobby and I first got involved, we had a weight loss product back then, really good weight loss product. And people would say comments like, oh, I need to lose weight, or, they just would say something about something. And then there was like a delay and I'd walk away and then I'd say, oh, shoot, I didn't say the right thing back or whatever. So we need to kind of train our brain to actively get into these conversations so that we can have more people in our funnel, because more conversations equals more people in our funnels. And so really kind of taking this back to just start the curiosity when you're starting to talk to people. So, it's really not about them. It's about us. It's about us getting the conversation started and figuring out what it is they want. So there's a lot of ways that we can prompt these conversations. So, we want to open and close the conversation with questions about them. And so whether I said it like social media, I think most people know curiosity is the best thing there. It gets people asking questions and stuff. But, we come across, you can say that you sit in your house and don't really talk to anybody. But at some point you're out doing this or that, or you see, or maybe you just need to get out more. If you've got a dog, go walk your dog outside. You can find lots of people to talk to if you've got a dog. Just take it to a different area. Don't walk the same path all the time. Change it around, or whatever you need to do to get out and talk to people. Spend a little more time in the grocery store than rushing in, rushing out. It doesn't really matter. So that would be the 3-foot rule. But one of the things that I've always done is ask a lot of questions, so I have a handle on what they're thinking of, because I've learned over the years that what I think may not be what they think. And I can tell you, way back to in the beginning, we had a gentleman that wanted to order a lot of product. And I can remember being so excited because it was a lot of product. Well, it turned out in my world, it was a little bit of product. It really wasn't a lot of product, but it was a lot of product to him. So, we know that when we use things that aren't absolutes, we may not be on the same page. And so unless we ask enough questions, we're not on the same page. We're not saying the same thing. So these are some things that you can say to people. And again, we're going to follow up if you haven't talked to them in forever, start a conversation with them. But, you want to get the conversation around to saying, hey, maybe they're complaining about their business now, what they do for a job, or maybe they don't like the fact that they don't have a job, or, maybe they're just kind of stuck in some kind of a rut. Well, have you ever thought about owning your own business? Pretty simple question, but you know what? This is where you can have these conversations started. Or, maybe they're complaining that they're always at work. They don't get to see their kids or their spouse. So, would you like more time with your kids or your spouse? That's a loaded question. I can tell you early on in this business, Bobby and I met lots of couples that would never, ever want to work with their spouse. And so we had to be careful not to say like, well, that was a rule, you have to work with your spouse type of thing. So, again, you have to figure out what their want is, or their need, based on your conversations, and again, because these are open-ended conversations, they're not insulting. They're just questions. I've got a good friend over the years, and I've known her for quite a while now. she asks so many questions. It doesn't matter if we get in the car at like 4 in the morning. She's got lots of questions and they're from all over the place. But I know she sincerely cares. She really is just curious. That's probably the best type of person for this business. Somebody that is just curious about you and stuff. But, what if you could double your income? Would you be okay with that? And I may say these different all the time, but they're basically the same questions and they're always, in my mind when I'm looking at people and trying to figure out how I can get this conversation around to the way I want it. But the cool thing is it's yes. Of course, who wouldn't want to double their income? Now you feel really good and your posture is super important. You feel really good about moving forward with this person and sharing a video or sharing a tool or whatever you care to share at this point. I would caution you too, though, once you get a green light, and if you don't know them, make sure you got their phone number. But once you get their contact information, once you get a green light, don't try to sell it yourself. That is the worst thing you can do because probably you know this person already. Use the tools because that's the credibility. But you know what? It also makes your life a lot easier if you don't have to explain the whole thing. They get to see the picture and the video. It just seems that much more professional than you trying to explain how money is made or oxidative stress at this point. So we've all been around a negative person. Have we agreed? Somebody that just is a complainer. Well, let them complain for a little while and then just say, would you like to do something about that? Put the ball back in their court. They've just complained to you forever, probably made you feel terrible about what's going on. You want to do something about that, or do you just want to stay whatever it is, overweight, fat, broke, whatever's sick, whatever's going on with them. But again, we're just asking questions so that we get that yes. If they say no to this, then, I don't know where you go from there. It's definitely not a person you want in the business for sure, if they can't agree to want to change something about their life. Okay. And then this is the one I've been around large groups of people. Well, particularly we're all out to dinner or something. And people are like, the waitress may say, what do you do for a living? Or maybe we're in the elevator and they'll all say, what do you guys do? And everybody's like, it's like everybody is tongue tied. So I think this is something you should map out a little and you should know it like the back of your hand. But you can say I'm a consultant for a company that does anti-aging pathways to help people look and feel younger. And then here, depending on who the person is, have you heard of activation? Are you interested in looking, feeling young? Like I wouldn't say, are you interested in looking, feeling younger to a 30-year-old maybe or a 25-year-old? But maybe they are interested in starting a business, or have you heard how activation works? Because then I'm going to say, no, tell me more. So this is where we want to get to, where they're curious about what we do. It's so boring when somebody says, I'm a consultant or a distributor for a health and wellness business. And they're like, okay, I know all I know. They don't even know if it's multi-level. They don't know if it's network marketing. But you've not said something that they don't know. Everybody can picture what a health and wellness business is, but they probably haven't heard about activation. I'm a consultant with a company that has cutting edge science, bringing it to market. Have you ever thought of owning your own business? Most people out there would love to own their own business, but they have no idea what the business is. And they certainly don't want to be in business by themselves without somebody to take them by the hand. The capital startup, there's so many things. So yeah, having your own business certainly is attractive to a lot of people. So we've got a way that we can show them how they can own their own business. But again, we got to get a lot of these conversations. And I can promise you, the more conversations you have, the more you get used to being around people and talking about what you want to talk about, asking them questions, but, wanting to talk more business, the better you're going to get all the time. It just gets so much easier, but we kind of have to keep it on our brain. And I know early on, I actually would like almost target people who I wanted to get around and get in our business and stuff. And so, this is how we're going to have to just up our game a little bit to be able to get the word out there because, LifeVantage is starting to grow. There are more and more people in more and more states that know about us. And the last thing you want to be is kind of like left behind because We've got influencers now going on. We've got the acquisition of a new company that we bought. There's a lot of intangibles. It's not just that old group sitting there anymore. There's a lot of exciting things going on. So let's start working with a passion to find out how we can help people. We're problem solvers. That's what I consider us to be. Just problem solvers. We want to help people get what they want or need. We've got a very special product, that. We've got a really great opportunity. We just need to kind of open our mouths and let people know. So, when someone says, what are you up to? I believe we can get anybody we want in this business. Bobby always gets approached. I can tell you at the beach about the Jeep, and, you can call your friends up and talk to them and you're having a conversation. They say, what's up? What's up? Well, I'm working on getting a free Jeep. Well, how are you doing that? Or I'm gonna get 25,000 from the company I'm working with. Well, tell me more, or they were excited about a new product that's increased your exercise endurance. It wouldn't be open, the right person would be open to that. And then, who doesn't love to travel? Again, found out how I'm going to get a free trip to Mexico or Cancun or wherever it might be. So, again, the only question to anybody you're talking to is going to be like, all right, how? Tell me more. That gives you the opportunity to be able to share one of our tools with the person. So again, these conversations, like I said, Bobby gets approached all the time at the beach. People simply come up and say, I love your Jeep. I love the color of your Jeep. What's biohack? And, Bobby's quick to say, oh, I want it. And they're like, what? And so it's just a natural door opener that he gets to explain a little bit. But then we always share the video, and you can decide which video you want. If it's product, we share our business overview. We share it a lot. You can notice the amount of, I don't even know the last one, how many times, but literally hundreds of shares of that one video that Bobby and I did. You're free to create your own. But we like it because it takes them from A to Z very quickly. And we tell them, first 15 minutes, we're going to talk about activation, a science that you've probably not heard about. But by the end of it, you're going to be so excited you got to take a peek into what this is all about. And then the last 15 minutes, my husband talks about how we build this business and how we're going to make all this money. Would you watch it? Sure, I'll watch it, and that's the way the conversation should go. You can see they're very, very tight. We're getting to a need. I'm giving a tool, and then I'll ask people, when are you going to watch it? And they'll tell me, and then I follow up. So all these little conversations need and take a lot of time because I know a lot of you on here are super busy. Bobby and I are super busy, maybe playing a little too much pickleball, a little too much tennis and some other things, but we're busy. We're all busy. We're busy at different things. But this can really tighten up how you build your business with the number of people that you can talk to. But we actively have to go out and start to engage conversations. And you know what? What's the downside if you start a conversation with somebody, a total stranger in the supermarket, and it doesn't go the way you want? I mean, this is where us ladies have a huge advantage. Guys, I think this might be a little weird for you. Maybe Bobby can put some insight into how he does it. But if I just tell a lady, I love your purse. Oh, those are the prettiest shoes. We're best friends. We are best friends for life right now. So, it's very easy to start a conversation for a woman that way. So that's just a little hint from me, but, that makes things a lot easier to get into a conversation with somebody. So I think that was the last one. Oh, no. Okay. All right. So, and then I wrote in, again, when you're talking to someone, you just let them know that we bought another company in our market. Do you know anyone in that area? They'd probably say me. Do you know anyone interested in learning how, and this is, who do you know? You've heard us talk about this. Who do you know? Who do you know is interested in different things? So ask questions and then listen, because I believe if you give enough of the correct information to somebody, you can get anybody you truly want in this business. And I can tell you, I'm proof over the years, there are people that I have very much wanted in our business. And sometimes it takes me longer than another time, but you can get them without a doubt. So, so that's just some. I hope you took some pictures along the way. I should have told you to do that. Let me just stop the share and then we can ask questions. Why is this thing not doing this? All right, there we go. We're back to normal. So again, just a few conversation. I just think we need to not be so quick to say, I don't see anybody, or, we just need to make a more assertive effort of getting out around people. So hopefully that helps you all.
And just kind of raise your hand or let us know if you have a question or put something in in the chat. April, you can check the chat. But the one common
Mhm.
denominator, and I've talked to Kenneth about this, and April and I talk about it all the time. The only difference between people in LifeVantage, that the only difference between the ones seeing success moving forward, and let's just say a lot of success, and the ones that are a little stagnant or stuck, is the number of people they're having conversations with. That's the only thing that separates anybody on the screen that you see right now. The only difference is the reason that Kenneth is on the trip is because over the last 2 months he talked to more people than most people. Okay, same thing with April and I. Okay, so if you want to speed up your business, it's just starting more conversations. We were in Chicago the other night, and it was funny. You could see people's, like, the light in their head light up, like the light was coming out of their ears because somebody mentioned, like, who do I talk to or where do I get them from? And we said, have you ever bothered to look in your cell phone and see how many names and numbers are in there? You know, do you know how easy it is to reach out to somebody that's in your phone and just say, oh my God, I can't believe I was looking for somebody in the phone and I came across you. I can't believe how much time has passed since we've spoken. How are you? And this is a case where you need to listen to how they are. You can't go into sales mode with them. This is the beginning of a conversation with a person, okay? And I'm going to pull out sometime this month. Next week, we're going to talk about, filling up the call on Monday on the 22nd. But I have some old funnel trainings from our old company before we were here. I know Jaya remembers some, when we used to do trainings on filling your funnel. I'm going to dig up those slides and convert them to LifeVantage from what they were with our old company. But I don't want to oversimplify this, but it really is this simple. Okay, if you want to build faster, just start more conversations. And the other thing I mentioned last week, it needs to be more conversations in 2025 than it was in 2000, because the conversations in 2000 in most cases were face to face, in person. It was either one on one, or it was in a hotel room or in an office, or that you were face to face with people. Most conversations now are taking place in Messenger, text, Zoom. They're not face to face. So you have to increase the number of conversations because you're not sitting across from most of your prospects now. Most of them are on a screen somewhere. Okay, so you adjust. And like I said last week, that's not good or bad. It's just different. So we just up the numbers. Okay, but we also have really awesome tools to do the conversing for us that we didn't have 20, 25 years ago. See, and April mentioned this a couple times in her training. You can't go into sales mode and try and sell a person on what you're doing. You got to let the tools do the work. And we've been working with some people on our team and really getting the whole three-way call thing, or three-way Zoom, or three-way chat re-engaged, where there's an expert in the conversation with you and the other person. Okay. And you're getting third party, credibility in the mix. So, does anyone have, April, anyone have any questions or anything they want to ask in reference to what you did?
No, no questions. No, I think it's just action. We just need action. Two a day. Imagine if you did two a day. You'd have a whole new business.
Oh, I mean, two a day is 60 new people a month. Do you realize that? You've heard it,
Yeah.
and even the illustrations I use with earning money, like when we do our Zooms, I always show if you get two and they get two and what it can multiply into. But you know how many people try and get two a day? Like none. Okay, and it's the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's a new habit thing. You know, you just it's about 21 days to yeah, that's what it takes to create a new habit. It's about 21 days, give or take. And if you did it for 21 days in a row, then you'd never not do it after that because you would have experienced the benefits with it. It's kind of like the same thing with going and working out or going to the gym. You get past that 3 week mark and it starts to feel good, it's easier and better, and you just keep going, you know? So Kenneth, so since no one has any questions for April, just share a word or two about what you focused on for making another trip. And I told the folks he hasn't missed one. He's we have that same mentality that if someone's paying for it, we're going. Okay, so Kenneth, congratulations, buddy. I'm excited to
Thank you,
be able
thank
to
you,
do
thank you.
another trip with you.
I know it is very exciting. And yeah, I tell you what, LifeVantage, they always go above and beyond, right? Every time I go on a trip, I'm floored. They're like, wow, they did that? What? This is amazing. So it's really cool. But I think it's just about consistency. You know, I was actually listening to the Activation Nation podcast today. I haven't really paid much attention to that, but I was out on a long walk today and I said, I'm going to put my headphones in. And I listened to the one that was one of the most recent ones with Courtney Watkins. And it was about a lot of things. But one of the things was consistency, right? So I think we all have to decide what what can we do? Because I know everybody gets busy. But I think here's the problem. If when we not if when we get busy, then we just let the business slide to the side. And sometimes it's like 3, 4, 5 days where we do nothing. And then we're like, oh, I gotta do something. But it's really hard to sort of get going again, right? It's just like if you work out, you go to the gym, if you go 5, 6, 7 times like every other day, then you don't get sore anymore. It's easy, right? Then you just keep on going and it's fine. But if you stop for 2 weeks, then when you start again, you're like, oh my God, this stinks because now I'm all sore again. And I think that same mentality can be used in this business if we just keep the consistency going, if we keep doing things every day then things happen, right? So, you know, I don't know your schedule. You know your schedule. So decide what is your schedule. What if you get too busy during the day? Well, maybe get up half an hour earlier and schedule those texts. I mean, it's 2025. You don't have to send them at 6 in the morning. You can long press the send button and then it can send later. There's so many tools, right? Send it at 10 a.m. or whatever the story is. So if you can't get it done during the day, if you always get busy, well, get up earlier, get it done. The important thing is just to be consistent and choose to do it. I mean, hey, maybe you don't want to go on a free trip. I was looking at this save the date that they posted in the hub, and they already have on their second mini trip dates to be determined, right? So they already announced, they already told us, hey, we're going to do another trip. I don't know when it is. Maybe you're going to sell us in October, right? But we know something is going to come in 2026. So my challenge to my team would be get on the routine now, right? Just like don't get sore, don't stop working out for 2 weeks and then get all back and this stinks. No, keep it going now. Get in the habit now because then you'll make the next one.
Awesome
That's it.
advice. Awesome advice, Kenneth. And yeah, it's easier to keep you know, if you're in a boat and it's hard to get it going fast, but if you are rowing and they announce a trip, it's easier to get a moving object going faster if it is moving. You know, and keep in mind, and it don't need to be about the trips. We happen to love traveling, especially all over the world. Okay, I know Jaya does it all the time. I know there's people love traveling. Lynn travels all the time, but it's kind of cool when someone else pays for it. And you know what's really cool when you get to go with your friends or colleagues. You know, and that's when there's some really cool training and ideas get exchanged when you're away for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days with your teammates or colleagues. They don't have to be teammates. They don't have to be your upline or downline. They could just be colleagues. And but keep in mind that is qualifying for a trip means you really built your business. It means you added a lot of customers and a lot of consultants to your business because it's the only way to get on the trip. So when we talk about the trip, that's an added perk, just like the Jeep. Okay, you can have a free Jeep or take 25,000 in cash. How do you get it? By building your business, adding customers and consultants. That's how you do it. So it just make those things just make it more fun because you can, it's a lot of people have trouble setting goals, and a lot of people, when they do, have trouble following through to the end with them. These are goals that the company sets for us. I love that. I love it's like, I could be in a lull, and then what Kenneth said, I didn't know what he just said, that they're already planning on the second trip. Now I'm like, I'm going to keep my eyes open looking for it. Okay. I know we gave feedback on the Bahia Mita trip, a 90-day spurt, and then you take the trip within 60 days after it ends. I think that's great because it's not delayed gratification. It's like, okay, we have a 90-day sprint, and then we get to go on the trip 6, 8 weeks later. I love that. Where most of, the bigger trips, the Ireland, the Croatia, the Africa, a lot of those, you're qualifying for 9, 10, 11 months, and then 4 or 5 months later, it could be a year and a half later, after they announce it. And they're spectacular, but it's kind of delayed gratification. I like the urgency of immediate gratification, so keep that in mind, folks. And how can you start? Start with 2 a day tomorrow and do what Kenneth said. Carve out the window of time. Okay, carve it out, whether it's your lunch break, whether it's when you're exercising, whether it's when you're, dedicating yourself to podcast or, whatever it is, okay? Carve that time out so there's a minimum of 2 a day. If you can afford it, if you have the cash flow, advertise. Okay, and people will be calling you asking you what you're doing. Okay, that's expensive, I'll tell you, because I've done it, but find your niche where you're sharing what you have with at least two other people each day. Even if you're digging through your phone and you say, oh man, I haven't talked to Mary. Boy, man, that must have been before COVID. That's probably 5 years now. I wonder how she's doing. Well, you know what? Reach out and see how she's doing. Don't reach out to sell her something. Reach out to get up to date on what's going on. And if you do it with a caring heart, Mary's probably going to ask you, hey, what have you been up to? What's new? And then you get a chance to share what you're excited about, and not in a sales mode, okay, but in an honest, heartfelt mode. And I'm telling you, you get into the routine for a couple months, and all of a sudden, and I'm going to dig out like the funnel slides that I have from previous business just to show you how it works, okay? And you will get real excited if you see how it works. All you got to do is be putting people into the top of the funnel. You know what a funnel is? It's wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. It's like, think of putting oil in your car. You have a funnel that does well. Now you're not allowed to put oil in your car. You're not allowed to even touch your engine. It's different days we live in. But when you used to do that, but a funnel is wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. Why? Because everybody goes in at the top, and then there's different layers where they settle in, but the ones we're looking for come out at the bottom. Well, how do you get them to come out at the bottom? Making sure the top is full. If the top is full, they're getting filtered through and they're getting pushed out of the bottom, and those are our customers and consultants. And everybody else, we're just moving along. And you don't get crazy and upset and frustrated because it's just a numbers game after that. You keep putting them into the top of the funnel, and 4, 5, 6 of them come out every month at the end of the funnel. And what's your job? Keep the funnel filled. That's your job. Because they will come out at the bottom as long as you fill up the top. So that's kind of what we've been talking about the last couple weeks. So let's give some thought to that. Let's just start with something basic, 2 a day, starting tomorrow. All right, if you're in California, you can start tonight because it's early. Okay, but on the East Coast, I'm not going to text people at 9 o'clock at night. That's especially on a Sunday. So it'll wait till tomorrow. But anyway, if you need the invites, if something April said, you need a copy or whatever, this has been recorded. We will get this posted also. But anyone got anything before we let you go? Everybody good? Good? Say hi. Ira, the Mets actually won today. Not that I watched it, but they actually did win after about losing 99 out of 100 games. It's good. So anyway, folks, have a great.
They actually did watch it.
What's that?
They
You
actually
did
did
watch it?
watch it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So anyway, have a great night, everybody, and let's focus this week on at least 2 a day, and a week from tomorrow, you having the largest number of guests watching the opportunity presentation that you've ever had. Set your goal to have the most on the 22nd that you've ever had. If you've only had one, set a goal to have two. If you've had two in the past, set your goal to have four. Okay, whatever your number is, just set your goal to double it on the 22nd. So, anyway, thank you, folks. Have a great evening. God bless you all, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.
Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, April.